There's something special about early spring walks. When the snow first melts, the forest hasn't fully awakened, the bugs aren't out yet, but you can hear the sounds and the smells of a forest that's coming alive. It's mud season. The ground is wet. The trees and brush are all dripping with life. Sap is flowing. You can hear the birds. The lack of deciduous foliage gives the forest a slightly longer echo, where the thump of a woodpecker or the hoot of an owl can be heard rippling through the woods. These early spring steps come with the anticipation of an entire season of outdoor adventures and hikes, and it makes your imagination brim with excitement and anticipation as you embark down the trail. As a realtor, it's one of my joys being able to highlight the many assets and beauties of an area, and together with my love of the outdoors and exploration, that's the inspiration behind these videos. I suppose these videos are a form of advertisement, but it's a way of me bridging my love of the outdoors and sharing something of value while promoting my business. So if you or somebody that you know are in need of a realtor, I'd love to have the opportunity to interview for your business. While many of these videos are designed to provide a quicker overview of what the trail is like, I'll finish the video with some long-form footage so that one can enjoy the scenery for a bit longer. This half-day hike in the McLean Wildlife area is a roughly 5-mile loop, and it's one of my local favorites. The McLean Wildlife area comprises over 4,400 acres and over 20 miles of hiking trails, donated by former Connecticut Governor and Senator George P. McLean. The trail terrain on this loop is fairly mild and can be enjoyed by mostly all hikers, with the one exception being a log river crossing on South Trail, which can be avoided via spur trail. As you first enter the trail, you come into a small meadow. You quickly come to a fork in the trail, and the meadow transitions to woods. You hook right down the hill through a small stand of woods and come upon a small meadow on the left side as you decline the woods heading toward the wetlands. As you pass the meadow, you descend down the hill into your first stand of beautiful evergreen trees, and you catch your first glimpse of the Bissell Brook wetlands as they flank the right side of the trail. As you walk along the wetlands in the wooded trail, you're soon greeted with the first stand of tall, mature evergreen trees, stunning in their size and bark texture. This is the moment where the faint noise of the road disappears and the magic of the forest draws you in completely. These evergreens are a hallmark of this loop and dominate the first segment of the walk. You come across Knollside Trail on your left, but this loop carries on forward. Further down the trail, the sky begins to open up on your right as the canopy falls and the clumpy mounds of grass and small wetland trees emerge. As a hiker, there's always something about a clearing in the woods that manages to pique interest, and the wetlands of Bissell Brook are no different. As you bend up over and around, the faint babble of the brook can be heard, along with the evidence of busy beavers. Soon the roar of the brook grows, and you come upon several stunningly large evergreens, their bark pronounced and defined like a jigsaw puzzle. A short scramble up a hill with the floor covered in the amber glow of pine needles, the trail brings you away from the river and along a ridge where the trail hooks along at canopy height to the brook below. A bassy thud overhead and a snow-like cascade of wood chips reveals the borings of the sky's woodworkers. Many varieties of woodpeckers are present in McLean, but the pileated is always a spectacle. At this point, the trail veers far enough away from the brook that you can no longer hear it, and soon you come across the intersection of Firetown Trail and South Trail. This intersection marks the point furthest away from any roads and is therefore some of the best for taking in the biophony of the woods. From the intersection with South Trail, Firetown ventures further away from the brook and wanders flat along an elevated contour through mostly evergreen woods, eventually taking a short scramble back down toward the brook, which can be faintly heard and seen about 30 yards off to the right of the trail. A short way further and you come across the intersection with Spur Trail, and you can begin to hear road traffic on the nearby Barndorn Hills Road, mixed into the beautiful views of yellow-hued grassy meadows below. The trail slowly works its way down in elevation. At the bottom, you're greeted with the small open meadow on the right and a small and subtle, unnamed vernal pool on the left, which is tucked away among the trees for a little avian and amphibian sanctuary. Shortly after the trail meets the road, where you carry on across the small, V-shaped parking area, the trailhead for North Trail is straight across. The North Trail hugs along the eastern boundary of a large meadow off of Barndar Hills Road. The landscape is dominated by white pines with a mostly open understory which allows you to peer deep through the forest and maintain a view of the meadow. After a few mild ups and downs, you come upon Spring Pond Trail. As you wind down slowly through the woods, you begin to hear the babble of the brook. And through the trees you can see the glassy stillness and slightly turquoise hue of Spring Pond. The fog, combined with the reddish, purplish hue of the leafless branches, is stunning. The stillness of the pond's surface is only occasionally interrupted by flocks of ducks landing. A small primitive old Appalachian-style cabin sits leaning on the bank of the pond. There's a trail of leaves, mud, and dirt leading out of the pond over the embankment to 2 beaver dens. The absolute serene beauty of this place makes it the pinnacle experience of the loop, as well as marking the halfway point. Walking along the pond bank on Spring Pond Trail, the views through the trees are stunning. A large beaver den alongside the bank and an incredibly large tree in the midst of being chewed down. I'm always impressed with the magnitude of the trees beavers are able to tackle. There's a short scramble on the far side of the pond, coming up to the junction of Spring Pond Trail and Esker Road, a forest road. Heading left on Esker Road will bring you to Sandy Trail. Crossing over the brook on a small wooden bridge, you're greeted up close with Bissell Brook. While Spring Pond is the premier spectacle on this hike, this slow and quiet meandering brook through the woods is absolute magic. There's something about this little forest brook that feels like nobody knows it's here. It reminds me of the old quote, "If a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, does it really make a sound? It feels like a dream." Sandy Trail follows along the brook, tracking up and down in elevation before crossing over a dry creek bed and heading up a hill into a small mountain laurel grove. Further on, the trail wanders into a stand of hemlock trees, many of which date back several hundred years old. Sandy Trail comes to an end once you reach County Road, just across the road from South Trail. While this section of trail winds through beautiful woodlands, it is noticeably the loudest section of trail with the most significant amount of road noise. South Trail intersects with Barndar Hills Road. For a less technical alternative to this loop, head up the road to Spur Trail from here. To carry on, crossing over Barndoor's Hill Road, you come to the second stretch of South Trail. After several small climbs, the trail winds back down to Bissell Brook, bringing you to my favorite section of the brook, the most quiet and serene section. This is a perfect place to take time to sit and watch this forest stream for a while. The most technical section of the entire loop is crossing over Bissell Brook on South Trail, which currently requires a log crossing. While it's a relatively wide and easy crossing, it does pose the risk of falling into the brook and may be difficult for older, younger, or inexperienced hikers. This section of the brook is only a couple of feet deep, so you do have the option of wading through. After crossing over the brook, it's a short hill up to the junction of Firetown Trail, completing the loop on your way back to the car park on Firetown Road. I'd be remiss for not mentioning the extraordinary waterfalls directly across from the car park. These falls continue up along West Ledge Trail, but that's a hike for a different day. Thanks for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and if you or someone you know is looking for a realtor in Farmington Valley, Connecticut, please share my name.